Hey everybody, my name's Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, sometimes you really have to wonder. I mean, you have to wonder how we as humans proceed in this life, how we as humans somehow in the midst of the incredible glory of the earth and the incredible glory of so many of the extraordinary animals on the planet, the magicalness of us as a human species, how we proceed in not recognizing that in any way to the fullest form. I mean, throughout history, teachers and masters and beginners of religion have come and said, there is an experience, there is a way, there is a love, there is a truth, there is a God. And there is a oneness, there's an experience that we all are brothers and sisters on this planet. And yet you look around and day after day, week after week, that clear remembrance is not remembered. And when that clear remembrance is not remembered, and that root of life is not clear, we all know what happens. We all know the horror of what happens. We all know how we hurt each other. We kill each other, we maim each other. In the name of love, in the name of God, in the name of country, in the name of family. We've done it basically throughout history as a humankind. We've literally cut off the branch we're sitting on over and over and over again. And yet in our heart of hearts, every one of us who thinks they're opposed to another race or religion, culture, family group, the Hatfields versus the McCoys. I mean, we could list hundreds of areas around this planet where there are them versus us. And if we go deep enough, if we recognize, if we remember, we know there's a oneness. We know that there is an overriding experience that we could have where that doesn't in any way let us experience what we truly are. And doesn't let us experience the joy of having this glorious human body. Doesn't let us experience the love of this life. It doesn't let us feel love and share it, which we know is the root of this life. And also we know somehow that the time is now to have that a reality. So however way we know how, through religion, through creativity, we have to come to that experience of the love, of the oneness, where there is no separation, where there is no exclusion. That we're all here together on this little globe called Earth, with the mountains and the rivers and the valleys and the oceans, and all the incredible animals, and all the incredible species of humans on this planet. And we can live here creatively, collaboratively, as brothers and sisters in love, in union. And we know it's literally required, because we're cutting off the branch we're sitting on. So I ask you, how long? You know, how much longer? How much longer can we think that in the next life, if we take out enough Palestinians or Jews or, you know, just go through the list, homosexuals, hetero, you know, all the verses, all the we versus they, that we're going to get to heaven, that we're going to experience the truth, the love. We know it doesn't work. And we know, and we've been told over and over again, from the Krishnas and the Buddhas and the Moseses, everyone who's come and said, there is a truth, there is a love. So again, You know, we have somebody whose life is dedicated to feeling love and sharing it. Judith Shinoda Berry is an incredibly gifted, clairvoyant, intuitive educator. She's a Reiki master. She's executive director of Clairvoyant Visions, which goes into businesses and tries to bring that experience of a vastness, of a collaborativeness into places where more so there's competitiveness. That seems to be the trend now. Or that seems to be what has been in the trend. Maybe if enough Judiths are out there in recognition of that there will be collaboration and not competitiveness and not craziness and not greed. And, you know, we know that's where it's at. And the time is well past the time for that to become a reality. And, you know, as we normally do on the shows, we've picked 2 extraordinary videos from friends of ours who are no longer with us, who have left their bodies. They were in a way, too pure, too fragile for the rigors of the separation, of the craziness that we put forth so much of the time. Kate Wolf and Abigail, 2 extraordinary singer-songwriters, and we're gifted, and their families have made available to us 2 beautiful videos of them. And also we have 2 beautiful art pieces from Carol DiLorenzo and Cindy Mattei, who have created new original pieces based on the theme Bridging Heaven and Earth for this extraordinary international art project we got. Is a way to expand the love, expand the creativity, to expand the collaborative efforts around this planet, and the results and the efforts of so many people. We literally have over 100 pieces of art that have come in, all different styles, all different formulations, but all manifesting of that intention to feel love and share it. So it's going to be an extraordinary show with Judith, the videos, the art. And again, it's time, and let's drop into that love. Let's experience that love. Let's share that love. Let's know that love. Let's realize that love. It's there. And somehow we all know it, and somehow we all know it's time to get it on, to really get it on into the truth. So join me in a short meditation, and then we'll have a Kate Wolf video, and then Judith will be with us. So please join me in a meditation. Thank you. So we're going to start tonight's show with a beautiful video from Kate Wolf. Our family has, made these videos available to us. I don't really think they're played anywhere else. Just, I don't know if we have exclusive rights. That's not the issue. Hopefully they're played. Hopefully there can be a Kate Wolf station. And just these incredible videos shown over and over again and just raise the vibration. So with Kate Wolf, Brother Warrior. Enjoy.
Gentle warrior, with your heart like gold and a rainbow in your eyes. Brave companion, do you see a world shining in the sky? With your body dancing like an arrow, spreading joy beneath your feet, and your hands wave like tall grass in the wind as you speak, with the shyness of a small child and the wisdom of a sage. I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid. Brother warrior, there are none of us who walk this path alone. this time when the earth is waking to the dawn of another age, I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid. That all living things can share, and those who care are with us everywhere.
Hi everybody, welcome back. So thank you Wolf family again. That was a beautiful video, Brother Warrior, Kate Wolf. And the art piece you see that came in for the Bridging Art Project is Carol Di Lorenzo, Gateway to Avalon. So it's an extraordinary piece and just one of the many unbelievable pieces that have come in from all over the world. And if you're interested, go to our website, heaventhirth.com, and go to the art project page. You can see all the artists, all the links to the artists. And if anybody's interested in collaborating with us, you know, you're certainly welcome to. Everyone is welcome to join us, any age, any medium, anything, just the desire and the intention to collaborate in manifesting heaven on earth. So we're here with Judith. Welcome, Judith.
Thank you, Alan. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So in your life, when did you know that somehow that spirit, that awakening consciousness was where you had to move?
Well, you know, Alan, it's been coming to me since I was very young. My earliest memory is about 2 years old.
Really?
Yes. I just sort of knew things, and I could see things that most people couldn't, and got a lot of training from the parents not to do that.
Really? Is that so? There's a lot of resistance and negativity?
I think there was concern. There was concern for my safety and my well-being. And as I grew older and got into my teens, maybe about 14, it resurfaced, and I felt...
I mean, did they in a way repress it or discourage it so much that it basically went away for that 10-year period, would you say? Or just was so...
I would say I probably learned not to talk about it. I don't think it ever went away. Right. I still always knew. I think I grew up thinking everyone else could do that, so we just didn't really talk about it. But there are quite a few people in my family, as I grew older, to find out. My grandmother on my mother's side. I know my father was very psychic and intuitive. So it was always there on both sides of my family. And then as I got into my teens, there were things that I began to test out and talk about, like picking up the telephone and knowing when somebody who hadn't called me for maybe 6, 7 months, I could just say, "Hi, so-and-so." And they go, "Wow, how did you do that?" And the best I could...
So it's just a question of unknowing.
Yes, yes. I think if you really listen to the external cues and you listen to your higher self, that would be the terminology they use today, or your intuition, which is what I prefer, you will always know. You will always know the truth if you're open to it. If you're not ready to, then we have sort of the logical mind, the rational mind, the part of us that takes care to protect our consciousness for things we're not ready for, and that will come into play. But if you just go with the truth, the unconscious or the subconscious mind that's always there talking to you, that little voice inside of you, you will always know the answer. And it's not just me, it's not just you, it's everyone. But we learn things that create barriers in our mind, so we become afraid of what we know.
Why do you think that is? It is an interesting thing that humans do that. I mean, I've talked about that at the open, how we start, like we have that experience of the love, of the truth, of the oneness, and somehow we separate it out. I mean, why do you think that works though? Is it just the nature of the experiment here, or how would you describe that?
I think that's a fantastic question asked, because it is true. A lot of us, we get really afraid of knowing what we should do because it interferes with our comfort level. I think the bottom line is basically people stop themselves right at the start, because they start going into that area of stretching, of starting to learn, starting to start having experiences that would cause them to cultivate the spiritual self or the inner self.
And do you think as a society, because individually we're stopping ourselves, that a society develops means and techniques for stopping everyone? Because if I'm not going to do it, I don't want anybody else to do it.
I would absolutely agree with that thinking. There's quite a few people who feel that if others get ahead of them and start stretching that comfort zone, they'll be obligated to go there too. And it's true.
So is that conscious or unconscious, do you think, how people proceed on that, or both?
I think it happens more at a conscious level, sometimes driven by the subconscious or unconscious mind when there's enough fear involved. But I think people deliberately make choices because this is a free will society, and people just find ways to either stifle themselves or keep themselves confused or in the dark, so to speak. But I believe that people can turn that light on at will, at random, if they so choose. And I never know how to explain to people that it's their own volition that brings them to either choice, right? A lot of people will tell you, oh, it's not my fault, it was this, my friend did that, my parents did this, my spouse did that. And it's not really true. We create obstacles and barriers where we're not sure what we want to do, and then we manifest things that support what we really want.
What we think we really want. Because would you say that ultimately a soul would want, or a higher consciousness would want, as I talked about the opening, to feel love and share it?
Well, I think that personally, in my experience with working with so many people, well, let me rephrase this. I think people can create what they want, whether it is at a subconscious level or a conscious level. And depending at what level they feel more comfortable operating from, that's where it comes from.
So you think that humans operate from a comfort level?
Yes.
And how does a human go from the comfort level they're in to the next? I mean, does it always take, like, a traumatic event? Does it take a teacher? Does it take something to rattle their cage, shake their world, do you think? If subtly or unsubtly, or how does that process work in a human being, do you think?
Well, I wish it could be so easy as to say one generic answer, but I really believe, and this is what we do in our trainings, everybody comes from their own unique perspective. So whatever level that they feel comfortable operating from, that's where the motivation lies. If they can consciously motivate themselves, this is great. Then they can make choices. They say, okay, here's what I want to do, and I really feel motivated to do this. I feel an inner burst to go there. So they might take, let's say they want to learn how to ski. They'll just go out and they'll start planning, and they'll consciously save up money, and they'll take all the steps they need to consciously. Sometimes people can't cope with that conscious decision. They don't want the responsibility, and this is probably the part that I'm going to address in terms of answering your question, is responsibility. If they consciously can't feel comfortable taking responsibility that way, then it kicks into the subconscious level, and then the desire to hang back, find excuses not to really ski. Oh, I don't have enough money, I don't want to take a second job. Sure, there are things I could do. Maybe I could borrow some money or let people know.
So what you're saying, where there's a will, there's a way, and how do we get to that will?
Yes, yes. But it mostly has to do with where your comfort level is in accepting responsibility for yourself and what you want to do.
So how would you say people could come to a conscious recognition that, I need to know God, or I need to know God and religion's not taking me there, or I need to know an expansion, or however words you would use to come to some level of expanded consciousness?
I would say the key here, Alan, and this is where I don't feel the training exists. We're starting to really cultivate that and expand that in our trainings, both in the professional and personal world, is coping skills. People don't know how to cope with new information. That's why when we were talking earlier, I said sometimes people block things out because they don't.
Because it's too much? I mean,
Yes.
is it an overload?
Yes. If you don't have the psychological or emotional coping skills, it doesn't matter what the mental capacity is or your intellectual capacity is. If we're a whole integrated being, if you're hurt in some area of your life, it's going to prevent you from being able to cope with
So
it.
that's where a block is going to come in, and that
Yes.
block will block the entire path, or will it block enough of the path to make the recognition somewhat twisted? I mean, how would you describe that?
If we were going to talk about this in terms of concept, I would say that it depends on where the person puts their emphasis of motivation. So, for example, some people, if they experience physical pain, can turn it off. They don't put physical pain as a motivator to change their behavior. So they might go, merely a flesh wound, and they keep on going, you know, the road warrior or the weekend warrior,
Right.
and they come back and they're completely demolished, and then they collapse, but they did what they set out to
Right.
do. They don't let it stop them. Other people feel a little tap, they get a bruise, they go, oh my gosh, I'm in pain, and then they stop. So it depends on how that person decides they want to deal with their life. And if, for example, they started out a road warrior early in life, as they got older, that could shift. That could absolutely
But aren't there
shift.
like external forces that, you know, accidents, like, you know,
Yes.
it took a Mack truck to slow me down. You know, I ran into a spiritual teacher who I started weeping, or, you know what I mean, that like blows the sockets. I mean, you know, we get a break like that, whether it's a good break, you know, how we would define whether it was a good break or a bad break. You know, an accident would slow us down and bring us to a place where we couldn't be doing our busyness and our regular activity, and we had to like be more in contemplation and more quiet. So how does that fit into the scheme of taking responsibility? Because that's almost like, would that be in a way your prayer? You're in a prayer? I mean, how would you describe that?
I would say that's at the subconscious level, where we can't cope with the responsibility of choosing to stop ourselves by our own volition. So there's a higher level, let's call it the soul or the higher self or spirit,
Right.
that comes into play and says, you know, we came into this life to learn certain lessons. We came in to learn compassion, and this is not the route we're going. So at a subconscious level, they start to create and manifest energies that goes out into the universe and brings them to exactly where they need to be. If they're going exactly in the wrong direction, bang, they might manifest that accident to stop them right
They
there.
would need something grosser.
Yes.
They're not in a subtle experience of that.
Yes. And so if you believe in external forces, sometimes we get guidance from others. Sometimes we hear somebody jump into our life and say exactly the words we needed to hear, and you just go, and you stop and you listen because you're ready. So there you have you've somehow created the coping mechanisms within yourself to hear that message.
So in your experience and your teachings and your educatings, you proceed in, I mean, in other words, in your intuition, can you see where the blockages are?
Yes.
So you could look at a person and you could see some people are clearer than others, and how would that look to you? Would you know that, as we talked about earlier? Would that be a knowing, or would that be more that, you know, there's the aura would look this way, or there'd be, you know, the chakras, or how would you see blockages? How would you see the differences between people that
Well,
way?
energetically, I think the easiest way to tell people or describe in a metaphor, what I do is I might see it in colors, because those are frequency based. Really, what I do is I feel the frequencies, and I can feel the resonance go off when somebody's not in truth, and align completely like a clear bell. And you can really feel that clear, open heart and when they're in the truth. What people do is they create camouflage so that they cannot see it.
They cannot see.
They cannot see it. And then that gives them the excuse, so to speak, not to choose what they know they need.
So in other words, like, I mean, clearly there's a lot of delusion and illusion going on in the illusion and the delusion. So it's clear why that got that name. And so, I mean, people fool themselves into thinking that there's someplace other than that they are. Well, how would you describe what are they fooling themselves about? What are they deluding themselves about?
Sometimes I think people choose not to deal with some level of truth at a certain point in their life. They will sort of keep that in limbo, trying desperately to keep this moving object that keeps pulling them off their feet or into a place that's not comfortable, out of their comfort zone. And they'll hold that, so they'll suspend it until they can create the coping skills. Some people will go their whole life and not be able to reach that point of coping. Okay?
With that new experience, with that expanded experience.
Yeah, so then they start to bury it, you see. And they start to pile, maybe we'll say, illusion upon illusion upon illusion.
And that gets, and would you say in a human form that leads to dis-ease?
Yes, absolutely.
And disharmony and all the disses. We get dissed up and down. And that's when we get the cancers, the disharmonies, and all those things.
Correct.
And not that they can necessarily be unwound immediately, but that creates the environment in a human being where the disharmony is great, and where the weakness is cellularly, it almost, that's where so that's your experience of certain types of disease.
Well, if I were to break it down into components, I would explain energetically, and there are more fields than this, but maybe there's a physical energy field. Okay, so that's where you hear acupuncturists working on chi flow through the body. And then beyond that, there might be the emotional field, which is something that I read very, very accurately. And
the emotional field.
The emotional field, which is all energy. And it works in a band that's different than, say, the mental field or the intellectual field, where we process information, but it doesn't come through the emotional body. Okay? Then there's the spiritual field that holds our life's lessons, and that comes from the higher self or spirit, which of course is the divine spark of God in all of us, because we have the spark of God within us. That's how we have the capacity to always talk to God. Not some people are just blessed with the ability, this extraordinary ability to talk to God. Everyone has it. But not everybody can understand the language. So if we teach people how to understand the language of God, they can understand it for themselves.
Right, in their language. Right?
And unfortunately, God doesn't just speak English or Japanese or whatever language. He speaks non-verbally.
Right.
And that's how intuition comes through.
He's not exclusive.
No, he speaks a universal language of non-verbal speak. So the left brain is analytical, and that's where we process our verbal languaging, which even in brain anatomy, you'll see Wernicke's area or Broca's area. These are all right in the left temporal lobe. And when we use the other part of our brain, which is nonverbal, you have the subconscious. So the analytical, where we do all the processing, is a conscious mind. The right brain is where we process the subconscious or unconscious wording. And they don't come through in words, because that's the left brain's territory.
Right.
But basically it comes through the body and the emotional field and the sensations in the body. So when we're training people, we have to clear those fields, those two in particular. Okay, the mental field, it's helpful if it's clear, but if you cannot hear your body and you cannot recognize your emotional nonverbal languaging, you don't have a good chance of listening to your gut feeling, or that little voice inside of you that might come from the center of your chest or your body. That's where people start saying, well, I'm not intuitive, or I can't hear the voice of God. They just don't understand the necessity.
Yeah, the reception isn't clear.
That's right. That's right. So that's what we help people to understand. So when you're asking how do we train people, we train them to get in touch with the nonverbal languaging that everybody has the capability to learn.
So, I mean, a lot of spiritual paths and a lot of like shamanistic techniques and the Don Juan books, they talked about like stopping the world, stopping the internal dialogue. So is there any place in your educating or teachings where that process, the quieting of the mind, the meditation, so how would you describe that particular aspect of it?
Once again, it's all learning, Alan, and you're right. quieting the mind, which has the verbal field going, you know, a mile a minute, when we can put that into balance, because I'm really against taking anything out 100%. But really, I think life...
bridging heaven and earth.
That's
it's
right.
all, yeah, all the yeah.
Exactly, right. Which is probably why I'm on your show today.
I would say we have a good fit here.
It's
right?
bridging the left and the right brain, or the conscious and the subconscious or unconscious mind. So we create that ability for balance to come in, and then we can have a sort of a very nice osmosis, a contribution and sharing of both the verbal and nonverbal. So the verbal is where our analytical abilities come from. Some people will say it also houses the ego. And the problem we have when we have the ego there is that it's always trying to defend itself and always trying to protect itself. And that's what keeps us basically wanting to stay in the comfort zone. We always want to be right.
And the ego is separate from, it's singular.
Yes.
Our ego is singular, and that's what separates us from others and everything
and
else.
Oneness.
And oneness, yeah.
You're right.
Okay, so let's do the second video. It's a beautiful video. Abigail has been on the show a lot of times. She's, you know, extraordinary talent, a great beauty. She, you know, was somewhere along the line, you know, really too fragile and too sensitive in a way for the separation and the craziness of this planet. So she left her body, but we have videos, you know, from the shows we did, and we did actually a whole video of her, and this is The Lighter I Am by Abigail, and then we'll have, you know, another picture on Cindy Mattai's picture, and we'll get back and, you know, Judith will describe more about the process, and, you know, maybe we can get into some clearings even. So, The Lighter I Am, Abigail.
I just got back from Yosemite the other week. It was so beautiful. I recommend going there. Staying there as long as possible. And not leaving until they pry you out like they did with me. It was so beautiful. Anyway, this is called The Lighter I Am. Lighter. Get up from my horse and take to the highway. We're driving along, it's a beautiful day. I hope that no one asks to go for a ride. The lighter I am, the quicker the other side.
everybody. Welcome back. So that was Abigail, and thanks for Abigail's mom and dad for allowing us to use that, and she was just really special to us. And the picture you're seeing now for the art project, the Cindy Mackay Winds of Change, again, and just another example of the creativity and the collaboration. Cindy did this, as soon as we told her about the project, she said, "Count me in." And then a month or two later, this incredible piece came to us, and I'm sure you see the magic of it. So we're back with Judith. So Judith, at the end of the last session, we were talking about, tools and techniques of quieting the mind. Why don't you talk about that a little and set the stage for maybe teaching a little or doing, directly into the camera, out into the audience, some, technique or tool that way?
Absolutely. One thing I like to tell you and your audience is, once you trust your intuition, once you do that, your success is guaranteed. If you follow up on it and you trust your intuition, you will always succeed. So what we have created with the Foundation for Global Healing Arts, as a spokesman, I would really like to help spread the word that there are ways to make decisions that will always lead you to the truth and success. And so one way we do that is we give people sort of new technology to use and apply in their life. It's different than just creating a tool. A tool is something that is just to assist you. It's not really as powerful as a technology and jettison you into success. But basically, once people can take charge of the truth and access it, then they have the choice to become successful or not. And so what we try.
And you think people would actually consciously choose not to be successful?
Yes, I have come across that many times in my trainings.
And when you say success, you mean?
Becoming all that they can be, to achieve the goals in the spiritual realm, the financial realm. There's many areas of their life that they can reach, but I don't believe in judging those people who choose not to be successful. Sometimes it's just a matter of divine timing. Everybody has their own timing, and again, it's all about coping skills and learning not to become overwhelmed or become incapacitated because they're overloaded. So it's a choice. Sometimes people get to a point where they say, whoa, I'm coming to this point where I'm going to just go into collapse because I can't cope, either on a physical level of stress or an emotional level of, I don't know what to do. Oh my goodness, and they ball up, and no, they don't want to go forward and be the success they can be at that moment in time. So sometimes they have to take half a step back.
To get a running start.
There you go.
Just there you go.
That's why some people won't choose success. And if they keep prolonging that agony, then they will not have a successful life. But what they can do is learn in the meantime, even though they might take that half a step back, to use the new technology that's available to them to create and build the path that they want to travel down. So it's all a matter of choice. I think everybody...
Well, you say choice, but would you say that someone's capacity has a lot to do with it? Someone doesn't have the capacity to really make that choice?
No.
Do you think that everybody always has the capacity to make it?
Okay, from where I'm standing, how I would best explain that is most people who are in touch with their soul, who are not just residing 100% in ego, and which, of course, we talked about earlier, is all about protecting your comfort zone and then keeping you sort of encased in stagnant energies. Mm-hmm. But if you are traveling through life on the soul journey or the higher path, then you're going to strive to reach new limits and new boundaries and expand yourself. And so sometimes it's like a pinball, you go back and forth and you hit different areas, but basically you want to travel forward and expand yourself. That's the point of life. So most people who are in touch with that motivation inside, that inner guidance to keep moving forward, will always choose things that they can do. That's hence the term, the phrase, God never puts more in front of you than you can handle. It just wouldn't occur to you to try to do something that you had no capacity to do.
So in other words, you'd be in some level of balance that way.
Yes, absolutely. Always striving, even though you're slightly off balance, growing new boundaries.
Would you say, and we use the expression about the show and about things in our lives as perfect and getting better. So in other words, you're like content and still making effort, still, taking strides to, everything's perfect as it is and could be a million times better.
Yes. I mean, if we were going to use a metaphor, we would talk about maybe a potted plant. The plant keeps growing, and if you don't change the pot, it'll start to turn in on itself and eventually die. So eventually what happens is maybe even like a snail, they outgrow their shells, or snakes, they shed their skin. There's sort of a mechanism that's built in spiritually, physically, emotionally, on all levels, mentally. So you keep growing, so you don't have to go into that area of becoming root bound. But some people will choose that. And I believe that that's part of their life's lesson or their own volition to learn their lessons at that level, at that time. They want to see if they become root bound. And just before it would cause severe damage, most people, their instinct is to
survive.
Yes.
Survival.
So then they start to choose something else.
So even if they have to create like a traffic accident to slow to take them out of that pot, you would say that they would create that.
Absolutely. That's how I shifted into this business myself. I was working in a nonprofit organization as the executive director. I had just finished, or was in the process of finishing, my MBA, my master's degree. And at some point, I realized I had done everything my family told me to do. I got the education, I got the car, I got the house, I got the job, I got the job title. I did everything, and I wasn't happy. I said, oh my God, this is not it.
How could I not realize this sooner?
But I had to get to that point where I hit everything on the checklist and said, where's my prize? And I got nothing. So I said,
it was like, this
wow.
is weird.
So here's the thing. I was at that point where I had to make a choice. So what did I do? I resigned, and then I told my family.
Right.
Because if I wanted to be talked out of this, and I wanted to stay in my comfort zone, I would have said, this is the world they created, this was my thinking, this was my belief system. And even though now I have discovered this new piece of information that this is not it, my whole body was telling me, my whole
you knew it for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So I could have sat there and said, well, let's see, let's call up this person, let's call up this person, and let's get this opinion.
And all the people who would tell you that, no, this is perfect, you've just gone through a period,
right.
Stay at it, you'll be richer and better and happier.
Don't quit.
Right,
don't quit. Right. But what I decided to do was listen to myself, which was very empowering, and of course was my truth, not somebody else's truth for me. I made my choice, executed that decision, and then I told the rest of the people, who of course told me I was crazy.
Right.
Okay? But that's what I mean. So I feel that a lot of times I have to share my personal stories to a certain extent, because God gave me these experiences to share with people, to show them the choices that they have. So that's what I mean. Some people will go into a safe mode. And
so if somebody had told you like one part of the checklist before you had checked it off, that, Judith, what are you doing? I mean, it's not, and you would have said, I'm fine, it's perfect. It's better, it's great, I love being here, until that next one was checked off and you realized internally that this was not for you anymore. That's right. But a lot of people need approval, and when I was younger, I did too. But when you feel it in your body, when you just know, that's why I always tell people that I work with in trainings, it's not just thinking, which is the mental field, or feeling, in the emotional body, or some sensation, or a combination of, it's when you know. It's a full body, whole, holistic. It's clear as a bell. If there aren't any, barriers to it, it's clear as a bell. Absolutely. Now you still might have in the moment. Yes. In the moment. Right? Yes. It's not because then otherwise it becomes a thought and a concept. It can be. If it doesn't stay with you moment to moment to moment. Right. But even then, I mean, it's a full body experience. It's a whole integrated process. It's not just one part. It's not a belief. No, it's not a, Yeah, it's clear. So when people get confused, I believe that they're creating the confusion to either camouflage themselves
or stop themselves
Stop the process at least for a while.
from moving. But confusion can be very, very productive in that, let's just say you're anchored in. Let's use a swimming pool. You're anchored into the side of the wall. You're holding onto the side of the wall. You're trying to get to the middle of the pool. You're afraid, you don't know how to swim, and you're afraid to let go. What happens? Well, if you let go, that's a good thing, right? It's a good thing because you are now free to move from that spot that you're rooted to. On the other hand, if you don't know how to swim, it can be a very scary process, and you don't know how to get there, and you don't know how to get back, and you feel very confused. What do I do? How do I move my body? How do I stay afloat? All this panic comes in. So when you start creating the ability to swim to the middle, or guide yourself, or steer yourself, or let's use the word manifest what you need, then you're teaching yourself the processes that you need to go through to propel yourself to the places.
And you would call those techniques or technologies?
I would say when you put enough new techniques together, you create a new technology, a new way of being, something that will propel you beyond your barriers.
And would these now be conscious in your being, that I've developed these new technologies, these new techniques?
It must be. It must be fully integrated. It not just stopping at the mental level, not just thinking, but also on every level of knowing. So there's a difference between thinking, believing, hoping, wishing, but knowing, it's unrefutable. It's just a truth. And so when you reach your intuition, which is your higher self or spirit speaking through the soul into your subconscious mind, if you can picture 3 layers like that, you get the truth dropping into you. And through that, it comes through the body.
And actually, I mean, if you really think about it, there's no separation, so it's always in there. It's just how do we, like the onion, how do we get through to it?
Yes.
How do we clear it so that is the, is the motivating experience in a being?
In a way, I'm going to say it a little bit quicker, it's always there, and there are no layers. There are only the blockages that we create. But if you are not afraid to hear the truth, and that's the bottom line, if you're not afraid to hear the truth, you always will. But people don't want to hear the truth because if they know the truth, then they will have to do what they know. And they don't want to do that.
They're not ready.
Right, and so we have to build coping skills. So it's a whole cumulative effect to be able to move yourself to just knowing. When you can do that, you can put fear in balance or release it. You're always going to have a repertoire of emotions, but they won't be out of balance. They will be there for a reason.
Would you say that at that particular point, that as they're coming up, you'd be conscious of them? You can feel them, that fear is coming in. Do I want this fear to be there?
Some people can, and some people don't need to. So I have reached a point myself where I used to experience all of that, as you said, sequentially, and I could see it consciously coming. But now I've reached a point where I've cleared the path to my intuitive truth, and I'm constantly living that, even though people judge me and tell me I'm crazy, and then later on they say, oh, how did she do that? They get jealous, and they get frustrated, and how come she's got the success? And then they start creating excuses. Well, she's different. No, I'm not. I can teach anybody to do that if they want to. So if you live in that moment, you just always know the fear doesn't even come in. It just doesn't ever reach you. So consciously, you just feel really in control. You feel really empowered. You feel very happy. You're moving forward. You stop judging other people. You stop getting angry with yourself and others. Frustration goes away. And you're always at peace. And that is something that's available to everyone, not just some people.
That's beautiful.
It is. It's very powerful.
And so, basically at this point, that you go around doing workshops, teachings, where the tools, or however words you would use, the techniques, the technologies, to overcome the barriers and to come into that place of, the way I would describe it is like love in motion.
Yes. It's very aligned with what your message is to your audience. And it's really finding the truth, which I believe is the voice of God, so to speak, or your intuition, another label. But basically, it's the love. It's the love for yourself. And if you want to heal the world, there's so many people, I know there's many people in your audience, that if you want to heal the world, you have to heal yourself first.
Yeah, we talk about healing the heart, your own heart.
Because if you're in pain, any kind of pain, whether it be emotional pain or physical pain, financial pain, you can't heal anyone else. So you have to release that pain from yourself, and then you're just filled with love, because that's the source of all. That's the oneness. And all the barriers fall away on its own.
Right, nothing can touch it. It's like,
That's right.
So, I don't know how much time left, maybe like 8-10 minutes. Can you do a little, maybe, teaching technique, for 3, 4, 5 minutes,
Absolutely.
right to the audience and see if,
Sure.
how that could go? I want you to actually make it really short. I think they said that you have about 5 minutes left.
Okay, we
So,
can do this.
Okay,
All right.
For like 3 or 4.
All right. For those of you who have a pen and paper handy to write, you'll want to keep that right in front of you. And the first thing you want to do is release your fear and make a conscious choice to let go. We're going to use guided meditation in a very, very different way. So you can close your eyes and use your conscious mind to expand, or you can keep them open and focused on a point just in front of you. So, as we begin, we're going to envision a beautiful cascading column of light coming from the heavens into the top of your head, flooding your entire body in just a second here. Feel every blockage, every dark spot, every disenfranchised feeling releasing from you. And as it releases from you, feel it blowing outwards away from you in every direction, just like black steam or black smoke. And as it reaches 2 to 3 feet out away from you, it immediately falls upwards into the heavens, where it's transformed back into the perfect frequency of love. And as you feel that cycling of energy coming from the heavens, blowing out all of the heavy energies away from you and releasing them, you can see it circulating upwards in your mind back into the heavens, where it's changed and transformed back into the frequency of love. Now through that column, and I know we're doing this quickly, bring a small cord of silver white light from the heavens through the top of your head, through the spinal column, out your tailbone, and directly into the core of the earth. And as it's going through the core of the earth, it's branching out little tiny white lights, maybe like tree roots, and anchoring you into the earth's energy. So now you've created basically a small framework of a heaven and earth grounding. Now we're going to take that column of light that you've been feeling and expand that out so that you're encased within a tunnel of light, with the silver white cord still running from the heavens straight through you into the core of the earth. And when you feel that cord reach the core of the earth, you will probably feel a shift in your energy field, very small and subtle, but you will know you have connected with those energies. So take a moment and allow your shoulders to relax, loosen your jaw, put a little space between your teeth.
You only got about 10 or 15 seconds.
And feel the truth that you are seeking drop into your mind right now. For those of you who have paper, please write down the first thing that comes to you. Letting go of your fear. Release all thoughts and begin adding on all that you wish to add on to. You can repeat this process as many times as you like, and we'll bring yourself to a close now.
Okay, well, let me just finish up. If you need any information, Alan, 805-687-2053. God bless you. Thank you. Good night.